Learn the secrets of success. Exclusive insights and information from the experts. Tag Radio. Ready to let your mind go wherever technology leads? Then tag, you're it. Tag Radio. Here today. Imagine tomorrow. Your company's IT infrastructure, business applications, and critical data. Consider these mind-boggling scenarios. What happens if you awake one morning to find that your security is breached and confidential information hacked or stolen? Or this one, in the middle of your busiest day, in the middle of your peak season, just as your new product announcement goes mass media and power promoted, your technology infrastructure goes down. And you, your staff, your organization, your company, everything goes down and out of the game. Keeping critical technology infrastructure and business applications operating securely and without interruption has become top priority in today's new economy. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, November 13th, 2007, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantello. Data center operations and managed services providers now offer scalable, resilient, and secure operating environments for 21st century clients competing in a global electronic economy. More valued and trusted business partner than mere outsourced vendor. In this edition of Tech Talk, Tino speaks with the president and CEO of the leading independent data center and managed services provider in the United States, David Jones of Peak 10. Named to Inc. magazine's annual ranking of the 500 fastest growing private companies in the country for the second straight year. Prior to forming Peak 10 in March of 2000, David was president of the Competitive Solutions Group at CHR Solutions, a telecommunications management consulting firm, and has over a quarter century of executive leadership in sales, marketing, and operations with Telecom USA and MCI. David has also been the entrepreneurial spirit and driving force in creating several startup firms, including Atlanta-based Southern Net, Telecom USA, acquired by MCI. Passionate entrepreneurial spirit, exceptional instincts, and a national industry-recognized leadership, Tino takes you inside data center operations and into the future of managed services with Peak 10 industry-leading CEO, David Jones.
Dave, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk today.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, Tino.
It's excellent to have you. I guess it'd be back in Atlanta from you have some background here, so it's great to have your company have a presence here.
Thanks. I've always thought a lot of Atlanta as a market. As you can imagine, it's if you look at our history, we've been around since 2000 actually, but it took us a while to finally land back in the South's largest city.
Well, so maybe let's talk about that a little bit to start off. I think we now are in 10 different markets, and what makes Atlanta a good market for you, and what are your hopes here?
We're actually in 8 today, but
okay.
We operate about 11 centers, but 10 is what's on the horizon for us. The Atlanta market is, as I said, has been a market I've always kept my eye on, having lived there a number of years and knowing the large, small, medium business growth that takes place in that market. But for us, in this industry, if you followed data center hosting and web hosting and managed services, for a number of years it was a very rivalrous and rough market to be in because we actually took off like a rocket ship, all of us did, and then around 2002, 2003, when the dot-coms and the economy went down, took a very low dip in the curve, if you will. It was not a time to be expanding very aggressively, but sitting on the sidelines watching, which is what we did. As a result of that, we ended up in 2 markets, Tampa and Raleigh, after the first 2 we had built. Still kept my eye on Atlanta, looking for the right combination of facility and location. We didn't really want to be downtown Atlanta, which is where a lot of the first data center operators were, and that was true in most of the Tier 1 markets. What happened for us about 9 months ago, we uncovered a data center in the Norcross area that had been vacated. It was a victim of consolidation, but it was a great building, offered us the ability not only to take over the existing raised floor, but expansion capability as well. Along with that, we began to look more deeply into the market, and not to my surprise, but actually kind of to the surprise of some of the other execs in our company, we saw Atlanta as a very fertile market for small, medium business growth. That Norcross location gives us a very accessible data center, as well as a great market to begin with. The second piece of that is we've had a lot of our existing customers in our other markets ask about Atlanta and when we might have something there, because disaster recovery is, to follow on Frank's initial comments, disaster recovery is and business continuity are two things that companies, regardless of size, have to ponder and have decisions in process for in order to have the continuum of business that they need to have should their site go down. They need to have a second site that they can transfer their data to.
Now, you the center that you've purchased, the data center, there used to be a data center. Now you've retained it as that. I think your people on the ground here were telling me that's a building of significant size in terms of square footage.
Yep.
Well, how does that translate into capacity to serve?
It translates. It's ironic what's happened in this industry. It translates two ways. First off, there's just under 12,000 square feet of raised floor in place.
Right.
And that leaves the ability to double that with a second data center as well as office space. We're in the process right now of completing the office space. The data center is functional. We had to make some modifications to it when we first went in. Not too surprisingly, we had to increase the power capacity and cooling capacity, because that's the thing that, in the infrastructure side, that's really changed in the last 3 or 4 years. And this center was actually built about 6 years ago. The technology, the quality of it was extremely good. We didn't have to do anything to modify a lot of the infrastructure other than add more engines to it, if you will. The other thing which we have to look at today is how much space do we have in the quote-unquote truck court, because air conditioning, chillers, as well as generator footprint require us to take more space outside of the building for 10 or 12,000 square feet than it did 5 years ago, simply because the power demand and the cooling is so much higher than it was. This facility afforded us both of those capabilities. The building is just under 35,000 square feet, so we've got the ability to continue to grow there for a while.
Yeah, that sounds significant. I imagine you can serve multitude of companies then from that location before you would have to expand beyond that.
Very, very true. Although I will tell you, here since 2004, 2005, the acceptance of outsourcing for managed services and co-location space has broadened, and the pace has quickened. We're finding our model is to build in manageable chunks, if you will, 10 to 15,000 square feet, and it's a very replicable model in every market we're in. We just opened the second center in Jacksonville. Are about to start construction on the third center in Charlotte. So we do it in manageable pieces, if you will, which allows us a very quick speed to market in terms of delivery. So we're able to forecast that growth. And all of our markets have a little bit different personality. Some are growing faster than others, but all of them are growing.
Well, you mentioned two things earlier that struck a chord with me. One was Atlanta as a home for entrepreneurs. We do a State of the Industry report each year. In fact, I made a presentation. This will be aired on Tuesday, so yesterday. And we actually presented one of the slides that I presented was on entrepreneurs in Georgia, and even during the bust period, the dot bomb, whatever we refer to it as, Georgia's number of enterprises that were being established were far outpacing the nation. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you probably have looked at the statistics as well, but I think that's real positive that you get companies like the Scientific Atlantas and others here who then oftentimes spin out with various entrepreneurs starting new companies, and it provides a nice, robust place for technology, and I guess you're seeing some of that here.
Absolutely. The other piece, which really is a great catalyst or adds fuel to that for Atlanta, is the availability of venture capital and angel investing as well. And that's, a larger market, successful as Atlanta has been. That's a key ingredient, along with a lot of fast-growing companies, as you said, that do tend to spin out that entrepreneurial spirit. And that's one of the reasons when you look at the core metro area, you look at Windward, you look at Norcross and Lawrenceville. I call it the northern the crescent, because if you go to Kennesaw across to Lawrenceville, there is just a wealth of business growing in that market, as you know. Just look at the traffic, right?
Absolutely, yes. Well, you're right, and then on the venture capital, it's nice. We always think we don't have enough, but I think we're blessed to have more than most, and it looks like this year, after looking at Q2 and Q3 results, that we'll be back up around the $500 million mark, which we haven't been at in a while. So we always could use more, but that money will help to start and encourage a lot of companies to grow. So,
well, I'll tell you, not necessarily feather your cap, but organizations like TAG, the Metro Chamber, the Gwinnett County Chamber, the reception we've had since July, it's really been phenomenal, and very, I guess I shouldn't say surprising, but being in the number of markets we're in, when you see a city really open its arms to a medium-sized company. We're certainly not as large as some of the bigger technology players in the marketplace, but I guess our track record is one thing. People recognize that the company is not a brand new company,
right?
But we also have a very very consistent and professional reputation out there, which has helped us. But I have to applaud Atlanta across the board, because the reception has been, it exceeded my expectations, and I sort of have a birthright to it, because I've been the one that's sort of raised the flag down there.
Well, and I will say, is returning a compliment, that Peak 10's done it right, just making contacts. They've been very visible and active here since they came here, and sometimes companies are more stealth than they probably want to be or should be when they come into a town, and Peak 10's been very visible, which I think is a great thing. Shifting gears, back actually revisiting something that you touched on, the industry trends that you're seeing for data center companies, and I think it goes back to the question around comfort levels and change in in-house versus outsourcing and managed centers. Do you see that trend shifting and continue to shift?
It shifted tremendously in the last 24 to 18 months in terms of acceptance, I guess I would call it. There are several things going on. One, most companies, as I said earlier, recognize they have to have a business continuity or disaster recovery solution, as they depend more and more on electronic transfer of information. The way you do that is not necessarily building your own whole new data center, but finding a partner with whom you can outsource. For us, the key has been a very localized presence, and as you know, because Atlanta's a stereotype, we hire an executive in that market whose responsibility is to develop and court that relationship with the targeted customer base we're after, and every market has that capability, has that resource in place. It's a very, I call it customer intimacy, which this business is not one, never has been one for us, that our customers were comfortable being in a data center that was 3 hours away. They tend to want to be close to where their critical information is, and also know who they're dealing with. I think initially in the industry that wasn't the case, but that's what it gradually gravitated to. We continue to see demand for managed services grow, and I feel like as I look out on the horizon, when you look at the scale that's starting to take place in the industry, with servers, with virtual machines, VMware, that sort of technology. What it's doing now is lowering the price point, or actually increasing the value is the way I like to look at it, to small, medium businesses, which means that demand is going to continue to be steady. I expect it to be steady at least for the next 12 to 24 months. And as technology continues to improve the scalability of it, I think we'll see it continue.
Do you have any sense, percentage-wise, Dave, in terms of companies that have an in-house operation managed data center versus outsourcing it now?
I don't know. I do know that when we look at our markets, and we often get asked the question, who is your primary competition?
Right.
And our answer is in-house. Those who prefer to do it in-house. We do have, I would guess that in a magnitude of 30% or more of our customers use us either as a primary or secondary. They may use their own as secondary once they become accustomed to outsourcing to a provider like us.
And I imagine catching the early stage companies as they're making that decision is one of the sweet spots for you, because
that's where the growth is. That is completely where the growth is, and we're not unique. But the stories I could tell of companies that came to us with one server and now occupy 250 square feet full of servers, it's a great thing to see.
Well, it does go to the just the logic of companies that have always said they want to stick with their core business in terms of what they can focus on, and then outsource the rest, and especially with the expense of building capacity. And as
the capital cost is significant in this business, and we're fortunate in that our balance sheet has allowed us the financial capabilities to continue to grow and expand. But if you look at just the capital to build, I can give you our example, 10,000 square feet today versus what it was in 2001. It's about twice as much, and most of that is driven by the power plant and the cooling.
And it's even though it's costly, it's probably I'm sure one of your part of your case is that it's usually better than adding a wing on your building or something like that. You guys are in the business, and if you take a warehouse or something that can be retrofitted, I would think that's good economies there for companies.
Well, it is. You also have, if you're in an office complex, for example, and that's a decision as a business you have to make, the thing you've got to look at is before I double my size here, can I count on the power company? Is there a dual grid serving me? That's not always that available. There's a lot of planning from not just the power side, but the network side too, to make sure that there are a number of alternate routes in and out, fiber-based, because our customers look at us as one network, while in reality there are about 6 Tier 1 internet providers that provide our backbone internet.
You had mentioned earlier disaster recovery and then business continuity. It was interesting. I met last week with the head of you may even know him, the Disaster Recovery Institute, which he's actually headquartered here in Atlanta. To my surprise, I didn't realize that until I had lunch with him through an introduction last week, and he was saying how hot, I guess I'd say, this topic is, and it's shifted a little bit from disaster recovery conversation to business continuity, which makes sense to me because it's a broader term. But we're looking for our TAG listeners out there. We're looking to get this person in next year as one of our featured speakers and just talk about the whole area of business continuity. So I'm sure it's something that your team would be interested in as well. But he just described it as something that every company has to be mindful of today more than ever, and it goes far beyond lightning striking the building or things you think about. Any thoughts about that?
Well, it has become very much as critical as having business continuity insurance, business interruption insurance. It is an insurance policy in our case, the way we've always approached that is with the number of locations we have dedicated redundant networks between those centers, which we initially didn't set it up just for customers to use for replication or backup. We actually used it for our own network, and that's changing now because we're seeing more demand from the customers. So we actually provide a network capability for our customers between centers. And as you can imagine, and I agree, the business continuity is a much more reasonable way to look at it when you say disaster recovery. What we found with disaster recovery in Florida, for example, was it took 4 hurricanes in 1 year for people to realize that, oh my gosh, this could happen. This can happen. That's the way we are, though. That's just human nature. You have one, and you don't have another hurricane for 2 or 3 years, and, well, I can deal with it. That year opened a lot of eyes, and we really offer a very basic business continuity solution. We do partner with others to offer more strategic disaster recovery types of solutions, like hot shipping office space or hot shipping an additional trailer full of, it's not really a trailer, but it's a central office for a customer, if you will. But as I just see that as an accepted business solution for nearly every business as we go forward. That's another reason I feel like the economy as far as IT outsourcing and IT services will continue to grow at a very consistent rate as we go forward.
Well, we've been talking with David Jones of Peak 10. David, thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today, and again, welcome back to Atlanta.
Thanks. We're awfully happy to be there, and we have a bright future there.
All right, best of luck.
Thank you, sir.